Not put it in the microwave. Sorry, this is loud, but I totally forgot this part. So I'm gonna just get this bending. Let's see how we're going. So I'm gonna take it out and it should bend. Okay, it should bend without breaking. This would tell you it's going to incorporate into the dough. All right, so that did not take long. So if you forget to take your butter out, I showed you, whack it a few times, took maybe 4 minutes, and now it's the right consistency. Because you don't want it mushy, like what we just put in the fridge, because that will not roll out well. So now this is ready. So I want to show you that again. It bends, it doesn't break. Okay, bends and doesn't break. That's tomorrow. That's an important thing for tomorrow. Now I'm going to get my dough out. This I made yesterday. So this is what your dough today will look like when we put it in the fridge. Be a nice rectangle wrapped tightly in saran wrap. So now I'm going to take this off. It's nice and cool. And we're going to, somebody asked me about flour. Now we're going to start flouring lightly our top so it doesn't stick. And if dough is not super sticky dough, but we don't want it sticking. So we'll get a little bit of flour. So we're on day 2. This is day 2. Sprinkle a little bit. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. So I'm going to take it off the saran wrap. And it has a little bit of air in it. I can see it's kind of puffy. So I'm going to squeeze it out. And in doing so, I'm going to make a bigger rectangle so that I can fit my butter block into the middle. So I'm going to just check and see, okay, looks pretty good. But I'm going to keep deflating it. You can also whack your dough if you want. So just squeezing it down, staying in a squarish rectangle shape. And again, what's important, again, not as critical as the butter, is that you don't have a big fat pocket of dough over here. It's all fairly uniform in thickness. And I'm going to say this is about 3/4 of an inch. All right, so now I'm going to pull it up, spread my flour. I'm going to get excess flour, always get the excess flour off. Put our butter block in on a diamond shape like this. And you'll see why that's important. So we're going to take and fold the dough in. So there's 1, 2, all right, so it's somewhat of an envelope. And then we're going to just pinch those edges together so it's sealed. So see, that was pretty easy. So that's why today, getting all your stuff, getting that rectangle of butter, square of butter organized and making sure your dough is prepped properly is the most important thing. That was pretty darn easy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go around this. I learned this on my own, again, because I had a little bit of a fail with the butter incorporation. So now I'm going to go on each side and kind of square it up to make sure I don't have extra dough on one side or the other. Get back to my square here. So that butter, I know my butter is right there, right there, right there. Okay, now I have a nice, look at that. And there's my seam. So I usually start seam side down, but I'm going to flip it a lot. I'm going to put just the tiniest bit of flour on the top. Here comes the whacking. So I learned this is another tool. This is important. Make a little star. I do this. This helps. So, like I said, when you go to roll this out, the butter goes with the dough. And how are you going to know you've done it enough? You'll start to feel the butter give. So then you're like, okay, if the butter's giving, when I go to roll, it's going to go. So you can also tell that it grew in size slightly. So that told me the butter is moving inside the dough. So now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just a couple. Make sure that the butter goes with the dough. And this little thing here, just no big deal. Yep. No, great question. Fantastic question. I don't care what temperature your butter is. Well, if it's not cold, it needs to go back in the fridge. But once you fold in your butter into the dough, you want to make sure that the dough sticks to the butter. So when we start to roll it out, the butter goes with it. One time what happened to me when I didn't do that, and the butter was a little bit cold, but it doesn't matter. The dough went and I had the square of butter sitting in the middle. So I want to make sure that when I go to roll, 5 to 10, so that you can see it bend. Remember when I showed you how the butter was bending? That's the perfect temperature. It's still cold, but it's not breaking. Because you want it cold. All right, so now I'm going to flip this back over and we're going to now roll out the dough for the first fold. If your dough is cold enough, you can do 2 folds right now. So we're going to start in the middle and roll forward, and then back, and then forward. And while we do that, I can see that the butter is going, so I'm happy. And we want to try to maintain a rectangle. And what you want to avoid is going like this, pushing down off the edge. That's going to make the layers that we're creating deflate. So we want to push right up and then nicely off. And I'm going to pull back this way and ease up as I get to the end. Push forward, ease up as I get to the end. Push back, ease up as I get to the end. All right, now I'm going to go. This is your other workout, Lisa and Renata, who are doing their hand dough. Notice I really kind of stop when I get to that end. And since I did that, I'm going to kind of square that up again. And then I'm going to come down here, and I want to try as best I can keep the width and the thickness even, and just make it get longer. All right, so now I've probably doubled its size. I'm going to take a bit of flour and rotate it, pinch of flour, and go back the other way. So what we're looking for here is a rectangle about 20 inches long by about 8 to 10 inches wide. Can be a little longer, can be a little, I mean, that's not, these measurements are approximate, but you want a rectangle. And then sometimes I come along here if I feel like I'm losing an edge, and help me make that rectangle. I'm going to flip it again. But now you should feel this dough is really elastic. And not sticky. It is 100%. Yep. I don't feel like the butter's not out here or out here. I feel like it's universal. So now I have this rectangle, which I can pull out my tape measure to tell you. This is 20 inches by 10 inches. Now I'm going to fold it into 3. This is my first fold. You're going to do 3 folds. So we're going to fold it here. And when we do that, we're going to want to pull these corners, push this fat edge over to the corner, and try to make it as square as possible, because again, this is our layers. So we want to make sure we have even layers. And then we're going to take the top one and fold it over that, and again, make those square. Now, if your dough is cold, which mine is, and my butter is still cold, I'm going to do my second turn. If it's not, if you see butter coming through, if it feels to the hand, mine feels cold. If it feels tepid or not cold, put it back in the fridge for 30 minutes. Then then you're going to turn it. Okay, so I folded that dough towards me, and do that again. Folding an envelope. Then I'm going to turn it this way. So I have the short side aiming at me, and now I'm going to roll it this way. This is my second turn. And then after this, I will put it in the fridge. Start in the middle, push it out, and try not to. As I start rolling it, I try to keep those corners square as best I can, not overly fussy, but having the thought. I'm going to flip this over. And I'm not worried about this little bit here, and I'm not worried about that. I'm going to roll it out a little bit this way because it's getting longer than wider, so I just want to make sure that it's even. And this is good if you don't work quickly, your butter might get warm, which is totally fine, so just put it in the fridge. No big deal. I'm going to flip it over here. Yeah, hi Liz. Bends. It bends. It bends. I demonstrated the butter bending. Oh, once it's in the dough, you'll feel it. Like my dough is still to the touch cold, but the butter you'll see start coming up through. You'll see the butter coming through. And then that's when you're like, okay, I need to put it in the fridge. And then just 30 minutes, it'll get cold really quickly, and then you can bring it right back out. All right, so now I've got it, again, about 20 inches, and it's not quite 10 inches wide, so I'm gonna just pull it down a little bit. And also, I always stop before I get to the edge. I never go off the edge. I mean, I do accidentally once in a while, but I try to be thoughtful and not do that. All right, one more down the middle. And now this is going to get folded again the same way in thirds. Make sure it's square if you can. And that's 2 folds. Then I'm going to wrap that back up in saran wrap. Put it in the fridge for another hour. And do my final fold, which is the same thing. Roll it out and fold it back into 3. And then you're done. And your dough then sits in the refrigerator overnight. So this is all I can do with this dough because it needs to rest for about an hour and our class will be over. But thankfully, I made lots of dough so I can show you day 3. So this goes in the fridge for an hour. In an hour, you'll take it out. If you come back in 2 hours, it's fine. It's now. It doesn't. If you come back in 4 hours, it's all good. Take it out, roll it out.